Welcome to the TIFF press conference for Trespass. I'm Maria Rowley, press conference manager. Before we begin, just a few housekeeping notes. We're going to get everyone from the film here standing on the podium. We're going to have about 60 to 90 seconds of flash photography, and then we're going to ask the photographers to move to the back. No flash photography during the press conference, and please keep the aisle clear on the side for volunteers with microphones for questions. Members of the media, please stand and identify yourself and the name of your media outlet before you ask a question. And everybody, please make sure your cell phones are turned off. Just so you know, the press conference is being streamed live at www.tiff.net/festival. And it is now my pleasure to welcome the director and the lead actor of the film Trespass, as well as our moderator, Henri Béhar. Thank you.
It's up to you guys. You want me, you want him.
All guys together, nice smile. Both of you right here, please. Guys, one more together. Joel, take control right here.
You know what, Michael? Just go.
Joel, down the front. Joel, right here, please.
We're gonna start over there for those people. Okay. And we're gonna come. We're coming to you. We're so coming to you.
Nick.
Now we're going back.
Okay. Joel, where's that smile, man?
Whoa!
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
While photographers are at it, if you have to ask a question,
Sure.
if you want to ask a question, please raise your hand a little bit ahead of time. The mic will go to this gentleman with the yellow jersey. Introduce yourselves and ask your question. And when you're done, please give the mic back. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the press conference for Trespass. The two gentlemen sitting next to me need no introduction at all, so I will just welcome them. Actor Nicolas Cage and director Joel Schumacher.
Hi, guys.
And I'll throw the first question at you, Mr. Schumacher. If one accepts the Batmans in your filmography, most of the films that you have directed are in very enclosed quarters. I think your record was making an entire movie in a phone booth, and that was shown on Times Square, and that was shown in Toronto.
In 12 days. Well, Toronto actually really made Phone Booth a hit because we premiered it here.
And what's this attraction? What's your attraction toward close quarters? This film takes part mostly in a house, inside a house.
Well, of course, because it's a home invasion movie, it would be in a home. But no, I didn't mean it to be sarcastic. But I also like to put flawed people in a pressure cooker. And one of the great American playwrights, Maxwell Anderson, said, the secret is you take a character that people can identify with and then put them through a series of circumstances and consequences that have altered their life forever. And I think audiences like that kind of story, whether it's comedy or drama or tragedy, and I like to do those stories. Unfortunately, Nick and Nick like those stories and are great actors and have both made it happen for me on other movies.
The house existed as such, or did you rebuild it entirely?
The outside of the house existed. We were very lucky to find that house. It was so beautiful and architectural and almost as if we imagined it, but the inside is a set. And Nathan Amundsen, who was the production designer, designed that. And then, of course, Andrei Barkowiak shot it brilliantly.
We'll take a first question, the gentleman in the yellow jersey, and then this gentleman.
Hi, I'm Fred Topel with Crave Online. Nick, how did you come up with the voice for this character? I think it might be your best voice since Peter Lowe.
Bless your heart. I'm so happy you noticed. You know, voice is one of the tools of film acting. And any chance I can get to play with it, I'm gonna jump on it. I wanted Kyle Miller to be somebody that would, in your mind, be the last person that could rise against this untenable situation that he finds himself and his family in. And so one of the ways to do that was to make the voice just a little bit, he's kind of like a, I say that he's sexually confused. He's someone that you wouldn't expect to defend himself and his family in that situation. So I wanted to play with that. One of the things that I said to Joel when I agreed to do the movie was I'd like to play him with a stutter as well. And we talked about it, but then as we started photography, he kind of talked me out of that. And I take his point. I think it probably worked better without it. But then again, we might be wearing tuxedos later this year if I had a stutter.
Okay. No, let's focus on this specific point, Nick. Why did you think that character had to have a stutter?
I wanted to show that someone that speaks in a way that might be fragile could still surprise you, could still be tough, could still take unexpected chances and risks. And the other way I wanted to confirm that idea is I added a little line where I said to Ben Mendelsohn's character, I go like this, and I say, I'm worth more dead than alive. And what that means is he's not afraid to die. And if you can take me out, maybe I can solve all this in my family, because I am worth more dead than alive. So that was another way of demonstrating that he was not afraid. So I like counterpoint. I think of acting as music, and any kind of new sound with the voice, any kind of surprise I can give you, any counterpoint I can give you to keep you guessing is what I'm going to go for.
Why would he be sexually confused?
I want it because I have friends that you see them in married relationships, and they're obviously heterosexual, but sometimes you look at them and you go, well, are you or are you not? But then they're all the time that I've met these people, they've been like staunch family men who are very aggressive and protective of their families. So I wanted to show that. I wanted to show that he's the last person that you might think could be tough in those circumstances, but he is. Not that being feminine doesn't mean you can't be tough. That's the point, that you can be tough. So I'm trying to break down stereotypes and, I guess, archetypes.
He wanted to seem misjudged by Ben Mendelsohn and the others.
Right, and play a character that is surprising.
Sir?
Hi, Fabian Winter for Latin America. I have a question. Hi, Nick. Francis Ford Coppola was seen right there in the very same chair 2 days ago. So do you keep in touch with that part of the family? And if you could tell a little bit about the story, how you became Nicolas Cage instead of Nicolas Coppola.
Nicolas Cage is who I really am, even though my passport says otherwise. I kind of had to reinvent myself to be able to have the guts to sit here in front of you today. Nicolas Coppola was a very scared little boy, and I had to sort of reinvent who I was going to be to make my dreams come true. As when I was Coppola, it was very hard for me to be taken seriously by my colleagues and also by my casting agents when I would go in on a meeting. And so when I went out on Valley Girl, Martha Coolidge was directing. I was 17, and I changed my name and nobody had known that I had changed my name. They did not know who I was. And it was immediately like a giant weight had come off my body. And I said, wow, I got this part. And they didn't know I was a Coppola. And then I started believing in myself. Now that's not to say I'm not proud of my family. I am, and all their accomplishments and what they have done, but I've kind of gone my own direction. That's a pretty personal question.
I do.
Yeah.
Question to the lady here.
Thanks. Hi, Naomi Hawkins from Sunshine Coast Daily in Australia. I know that you guys filmed 8mm together. How did this shoot compare, and did you get together again because of the relationship formed at that time?
Well, I had been a fan of Nick since Valley Girl, and I was going to do a movie called Devil's Advocate with Brad Pitt, which was a much, much darker version of the movie that was eventually made and was a big hit. But there was a character of Brad's best friend who was somehow possessed and became this kind of sidewalk talker. I mean, he had been given this gift, and what he was saying, the way the writer wrote it, was quite brilliant. And so I actually was going to give Nick that role. And then Brad and I decided the script was not the level that we felt comfortable with, so we went on. And so that was the first time I wanted to work with Nick. And then there were many other times, but 8mm, at the time, I think with the crime shows now and with the internet, 8mm seems somewhat like a detective story. At the time, I know it was an outrage that we made this movie, but I also wanted Nick because I knew he would go wherever the story went, and he did. And I think he did a remarkable job, and so did the entire cast. We had a great cast, but it's a totally different movie, and we're dealing with totally different worlds. You know, this is a man trying to save his family, and it is always that underneath everything, and trying to save his whole universe. So, in 8mm is a story of a man broken who has to take revenge because the law will not take revenge on these monsters, and so. It's another one of my vigilante movies, which I get great criticism for.
I mean, Joel is somebody that I feel we have a terrific rapport. I work well with Joel because we have similar tastes. I like the kinds of movies he makes. I like his interests in the Grand Guignol and horror. He has a style in the directing process where there's a feeling of chaos on the set. And chaos can be very, it can make an actor feel very confident because you can try anything. You can express anything, and you know that Joel will give you a shot at it. He also has one of the most remarkable senses of humor of anybody I've ever worked with, and he keeps everybody very happy and laughing, which is also quite relaxing. And actors have to be relaxed in order to do what we do. It's a high pressure job. There's a lot of tension, and Joel helps you feel comfortable and to be able to dig deep and get to the root of what you're trying to express.
I hate to correct you about your own film, Mr. Schumacher, but it's not quite the story of about a family. It's a story about two families, since the invaders are also a family.
Yes, I was dealing with Nick's family at that point. Yeah, I think they are. I think Ben Mendelsohn's character and Nick's character are very similar in they've overreached to have their share of what used to be called the American dream, but it's really a universal dream, which is to have material possessions, do well for your children, and maybe show off a little to people. And they both just went too far. And then, of course, I can't speak for your countries, but in the United States right now, we have an extreme amount of rich people and extreme poor, and the middle is shrinking. And this is a movie of, it's a class warfare movie too, about the haves and have-nots. The interesting thing about the way his character was created and that family is sometimes, and we've all maybe experienced this with our friends or family, sometimes the haves don't have as much as we think they have. So there's so many secrets and lies in both families, and then both men trying to exist after a certain moment. And I think that Ben and Nick did a great job almost recognizing that in each other. And you can see Ben sometimes almost pleading with him, and then Nick says to him, "We're not the only hostages here, are we?" So there's a certain moment where, in my mind, they're versions of the same man, but of course they've had a totally different background, different education or no education, and they're in the shape they're in. But Ben and Jordana, who plays his girlfriend, who has a daughter in foster care, and the baby brother, right? That's a family. That really is a family. And he loves them and is trying to protect them, even though it's so dysfunctional. But it's not so functional on that side either in the beginning. But the story really becomes about what do these things mean to you when your family's in jeopardy? It means nothing. The house, the car, all these facades.
Well, most of the European press that went to the screening came out saying it's a political movie, and of course North American journalists said, "Don't you ever say that." Do you agree that it is a political movie?
I think every movie I make is political because you have to find a basis as a director for what's the story really about, and I must say the foreign press always does recognize this. It happened to me first on Lost Boys, where the French press loved it, but they read into it so many political messages. And then I thought, well, I'm kind of a pop culture sponge, and yeah, I mean, you are who you are, and you create what you create. And as Nick adds to his characters certain feelings he has, then, and sometimes you realize something about yourself after the film is over.
Nick, you want to?
Well, I think it's almost impossible, I say almost, to make a movie that's relevant to the times without it having some political element to it, just because it taps into the zeitgeist of what's going on now.
The secret is never to lecture.
Yeah, then you're going around it the wrong way. If you make a message movie, then it becomes that, and then it loses its credibility as a bit of entertainment as well.
Tying what you just said to the physicality of the house itself, you said that both families overreached to try and reach and touch the American dream. There is a little bit of too much wealth in the house, as if he had come from poor background and was always going, let's add one diamond to this, let's add one gold leaf to that, let's add one sparkle to that. But was it that I would assume was deliberate?
Definitely. I mean, you definitely felt that this was a man who was very interested in status. The house is a showplace, his car, his clothes, he's in the diamond business. His office it's a gorgeous office, and yeah, but.
And Nicole's character designed the house. It's her design, so
But
it's also her
she
taste.
says to Cam in that one scene, maybe it was too much. And then she says to Nick over the phone in one scene, "I didn't need this. You wanted this house. We were happier in the old house." Because from her point of view, they have this beautiful house, but they lost the family, in a sense. You can see there are three separate lives going on in that house. Leanna and Nicole and Nick, they're not connecting at all. There really are ships that pass in the night. And then, of course, that changes, and they become the most important things in their lives, which they always were. and they're faced with something they never dreamed they would be and are constantly changing. And I think Nick makes, he may speak differently to this, but I think at the moment when he says no to Ben Mendelsohn in the beginning of the film, that he makes a choice. And I think when Nicole is in the kitchen with Ben Mendelsohn and he's saying, "You deserve to die," you can see she goes through victim and fear and tears, and then when she turns around, she's made a choice and she becomes proactive and uses her beauty and sexuality to lure him in, but as you see what she does, she has a plan. And they have to make choices that survive. And so does Leanna, the young daughter. She's an incredible character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nick?
What was the question?
You pick up on what he said.
About, well, I agree with what you said.
That he's a
Nothing to add to
man
it.
that didn't have a lot to begin with and now has achieved and achieved and achieved.
Yeah, I didn't think about it that far back, to be perfectly honest. I saw him as somebody that really enjoyed what he does. I think he enjoys the beauty of a diamond. I think he cares about the rocks. I think he's a great businessman. He's great at his job. But I also think he has a genuine interest in the stones. As case in point, when he says, "Do you know the etymology of the meaning of the word diamond?" You know, I mean, someone would go dig that deep, or even really care about what a Golconda diamond is. And one of my models for the character was Martin Katz, jeweler to the stars. You know, I thought he was an interesting choice to explore for Kyle. You know, but he's far more successful than Kyle is. But I think this character really knows about the stones and has an interest in it.
No, and I think he's a victim of downsizing. He explains that in the film. He works for a family business. The more successful you get, the larger your commissions get. And so it's a family business, and he wasn't family. And he's in a position a lot of people are now that have worked very hard, which is they're downsized.
The gentleman in the jersey, this gentleman with the glasses, and then the lady here. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, I do have another question. I understand the film already has a DVD release date in November. How do you feel about the opportunity to present the film straight in people's homes?
I thought it was pay-per-view, isn't it?
I don't know. Video on demand? I
I don't know. We all wind up on DVD. Everybody does. Sometimes they release them on the same day. So I don't. That's not what we do.
Sir?
Jim Slotek from the Toronto Sun. You're well known for moving between small independent projects like this and large-scale entertainments. I'm wondering, first of all, if it's true that you are signing on to The Expendables 2?
I haven't really pursued that. I don't know much about it except what I read on the internet. Now, Stallone is somebody that I like, and he's always been very friendly to me over the years, so I would consider it, but I haven't had any formal discussions about it.
How do those two magnitudes of entertainment that you work in, how do you sort of how do they make up you as an actor?
How does it what for me as an actor?
How do they sort of coexist, the large scale action?
Great, they coexist very well. I mean, it's an opportunity to experiment on smaller movies, and then once I find a sound that I like, or a move I like, or a style that I like, I might take a chance with it on a bigger movie. The best example of that was I ripped off Vampire's Kiss to no end when I did Face Off. I was just constantly going back and looking at Vampire's Kiss and coming up with ideas to apply to the Face Off movie. So it's kind of like laboratory. You know, you can, because there's not so much money at stake, you can experiment a little more, and it just keeps it fresh for me. I like to hopscotch between genres and all kinds of movies.
The lady here, front row.
Hi, it's Melanie Mullen with Elle Magazine. Beautiful to see your beautiful blue eyes. The film was shot in Louisiana, and is that your new home, Nicholas? And how does it compare to the lifestyle in LA and even in Toronto?
Well, no, I actually live, I
Many places.
No, I live in Nassau, but I spend more time in Louisiana than anywhere else in the United States.
It's become the new Hollywood. There's always tons of movies filming there. They have a great tax rebate. There's some wonderful local actors. And now it's all set up to make movies. I mean, it's a dream.
Well, we used to make jokes about it on the set because in the 70s, people around the world saw, the United States as beaches and surfers and palm trees, and now they're going to see it as swamps and alligators and
But ours was
Creole
in the
style.
house. As you know, it could have been shot anywhere. I mean, it was not dependent on location.
Ma'am, and then the lady over there.
Hi, pleasure to meet you guys. My name is Sandy. I'm from Toronto for Tonight newspaper. My question for you is, you've worked on so many films over the years. Have you watched any with your son, and is there any that are, I guess you would say is a favorite that you've watched with him?
No. If we happen to be channel surfing and a movie of mine comes on, off. Shut it off. I don't want my movies played in the house. I don't watch my movies, and as long as I can keep that going, I will. I'd rather him still call me Dad and not Nicolas Cage. He started calling me Nicolas Cage, and then I said, no, I'm Daddy.
He definitely has a will of his own, Cal.
Yeah.
He's his own man.
Yeah. Just the other day, I was saying, okay, quickly, we've got to go to school quickly, and under his breath, he didn't know I heard him, he said, and quickly is my middle name.
Andrea Miller with Cineplex. Nicholas, you gave a fantastically gonzo, unhinged performance in Bad Lieutenant.
Thank
Any
you.
plans to work with Werner Herzog again?
Well, it was interesting. We came close. We were going to do something called Fire and Rain, and nobody could figure out how to make the movie within the $30 million budget, because fire, special effects, computer graphics, and all that is going to be at least 70. And nobody could come up with the budget until Werner came along. And then Werner said, now, I don't have a very good Werner impression, but now Nicholas. We will go into the forest fire. There will be fires in this part of the year, and we will go in. Now, I did this once before, and there was a microphone, and it just melted. Will you do it? And I said, yeah. But you have a small child. You sure you want to do it? Yeah, let's go. But I never heard back. So.
Question to Mr. Schumacher, and that concerns casting. You've always cast your films very well, and this one is no exception from that point of view. And although we filmgoers understand a bit the process of casting an actor, how do you cast a cinematographer? Why did you take Andrei Barkowiak, who, if we base our remark on his work with Sidney Lumet, is an expert at darkness?
Well, I did Falling Down with Andre, and we had a great working relationship. One of the problems is sometimes the cinematographer you would like to work with is busy on another film. And then you have to pick the right cinematographer. It's the same as casting. You have to have, every department has to have the right contribution. And of course, with the cinematographer is key. I mean, the actors and the cinematographer, and many times the production designer, we are creating it, second by second. And the way this film is shot was particularly important because it's in a small space. And what Andre did, there are 4 cameras going at all time, and they're moving. And there's a dance with 7 people and 4 cameras and crews in that space. And it's pretty artful, and the lighting is unbelievable, but he's a master.
True.
Yeah.
Sir.
Mark Naglasis, the West Australian. Nicholas, do you find it increasingly difficult to find challenging material nowadays, particularly studio-backed material? And I guess to Joel, do you find it difficult to finance more challenging films?
I don't think it's so difficult, actually. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities to try different kinds of characters and genres. I mean, I'm about to do a movie now called Frozen Ground. Scott Walker is directing first time, and John Cusack, and it's the true story of the horrifying and brutal killings of the young ladies in Alaska. You would hunt them like animals. And so, to me, this is a challenge because I'm playing a real detective, and this man is a real hero, and I don't want to let him down. And I have to go meet him, and I have to portray him honestly, but at the same time give it some pizzazz so that it's interesting for audiences. But I feel pressure. I feel that this is something that it's more it's more cinema verite, more docudrama. So I haven't done anything like that. Maybe World Trade Center, but it's been a while.
We'll take what? Sorry.
Yeah, to just answer your question, the big franchises, if you have a franchise, a sequel, a brand name, it's much easier to actually be financed with $200 million to make one of those, because the upside might be enormous. What's shrinking is the great adult, the solid center of adult drama, which made Hollywood and cinema all over the world great. There's very few of them every year, and most of them come out on top of each other at 1 week before Christmas. But the independent movie has all the problems. You know, you don't know if you're going to get distribution, but that's where the material is, where you can take real risks. I don't think that some of the movies that any of us made in the past would ever get made in the climate today. And you could go back to the Scorsese films, and I mean, to walk in and try to pitch Taxi Driver, or, you know, Cuckoo's Nest, or Raging Bull, and of course, Cuckoo's Nest is not Marty's, but you know, it's very hard, those movies, to get. Oh, Falling Down would never get made, nor would Phone Booth, nor a lot of things. They would be considered too dangerous, and I certainly couldn't have made Phone Booth with an unknown actor from Ireland. That would have never happened. No, and a lot of Nick's movies, as he said, Vampire's Kiss, that wouldn't be made today, because it would have to be a vampire franchise, and it would have to be user-friendly, and there's nothing wrong with that. We've all done those kinds of movies. But if you want meat, you have to go to the independent, but then you have the problems of it.
So. Rumor has it that someone tried to rewrite Casablanca, actually just changed the title on the front page and had the script go through the studio, and was turned down by every single studio in LA.
That's fantastic.
I love that.
That's a great story.
I absolutely love that. Yes.
Question here, and then the gentleman over there, and then we'll call it a day.
Yes, I have another question for Nicholas. Have you ever in real life experienced a trespassing in a lower level when a fan wanted to get into your home?
I have lived through the nightmare. I have actually been one of those people who has had a home invasion, and it was 2 a.m. I was living in Orange County at the time. I was asleep with my wife. My 2-year-old at the time was in another room, and I opened my eyes, and there was a naked man wearing my leather jacket eating a fudge-sickle in front of my bed. I know it sounds funny, and it is if I look back on it, but it was horrifying. And I immediately jumped out of bed. He ran into my bathroom. I don't know why he was naked, maybe because he had swum up onto the dock and crept his way into the house, and he had no clothes. And I said, "What are you doing in my house? What are you doing in my house? You get out of my house." And I did talk him to get out, and then some people came and they put him into a facility, and I didn't press charges because I realized he wasn't all there. But the folks and the cops said to me that if he had broken into anybody other's house in this neighborhood, he would have been shot. But I don't have a gun in my house, and I'm always going to try to talk you out of violence if I can. So, but it was horrible for my wife. It was a terrifying night, and I could never really stay in that house after that.
We'll take one last question. So
Hello, Juan Carlos
make
Garcia.
it good.
Juan Carlos Garcia from Mexico City. A question for both of you. Is there some new talent right now, like young actors and young directors, that you like the work that they are doing in these times?
Which actors and directors do I love?
Of of new generations.
What?
Oh, actors I would like to work with.
No,
Or directors.
new generations, young actors, newcomers, one of the new generations, like actors, directors.
Young.
Oh, who have
You
my
mean
eye on?
We're old here. Okay.
Well, I definitely think Leanna, who plays Nick's daughter, is someone to watch. She was here last year with Trust. She's an amazing actress, an amazing young person. She was 14 when we did our film. I think you're going to hear from her. The young lady, her sort of slutty friend in the red Mercedes, her name is Emily Mead, and she was in 12, and that's a girl to keep an eye on, too. There are a lot of terrific young people you wouldn't know exactly because they're just starting out, but it's much harder to get unknowns in a movie. I mean, a lot of the unknowns that I was able to give great parts in my movies to would not happen today. And, you know, directors, I'm a great movie fan, but I would have to say, of course, David Fincher, who's a friend of mine, who I think is really brilliant, and I think that Chris Nolan is brilliant. You know, there are a lot of really fascinating directors right now, and they're doing really, really interesting material. And right now, the world is their oyster, and they deserve it.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of go around it the other way. It's like everybody I want to work with is dead. I missed the boat on Kubrick, and you know, here I raise a glass to Cliff Robertson. I really wanted to work with him. I loved his performance in the Galaxy being in the Outer Limits. I got a chance to work with Peter Falk, which I'm very thankful for, another hero. But you know, my great heroes, with the exception of maybe Eastwood and Nicholson, are pretty much all gone.
On that sad note, we'll call it a day. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. I should have mentioned you'd never get 8mm. Can you imagine going in and pitching 8mm to a studio?
You could do it, but